the final chapter of Janthir Wilds expansion is complete, so I want to share with you my thoughts on the highs and lows of Guild Wars 2's second annual expansion. But before I do, hey, I'm Fornax, welcome to my channel. Please do pull up a chair, make yourself at home, and if you find anything of merit herein, do feel free to push some buttons below. So, after the trials and tribulations experienced in the close of Secrets of the Obscure, specifically, if not exclusively related to the underwhelming delivery of Naos, I felt no small trepidation going into Janthir Wilds. The bulk of Secret's main offering, its wizarding content, had been competent and engaging, but the expansion as a whole, at least to me, was diminished by that unsatisfying ending. Going into Janthir, I hope the devs would reconcile that oversight. Now, as a long-term player of Guild Wars 2, the laundry list of new features and locations in Janthir was well worth the price of admission for me. Player housing, finally, at last we have it. New raid, which is great. New fractal, 30-ish hours of story content, new maps, new weapons, new legendary gear, shiny armors and weapons, and a retooled Warclaw mount for PvE shenanigans. Great, smashing, super, and all for the low price of, say, like a movie ticket and a bucket of popcorn. Great. Not bad at all. Not a bad deal. That said, Guild Wars 2 is an experience, not necessarily a commodity if we're looking at it as a consumer. It's a marriage of narrative and gameplay and exploration and skill and timing. So the question for me was, did Janthir Wilds hold its own in terms of quality, if not quantity, compared to what's come before? So the opening chapters of Janthir felt like a breath of fresh air, a new beginning. The maps were beautiful and vast and dense, the story delivery interesting, and the new lowland codon endearing. However, the elevator pitch for these new annual expansions was to deliver a short standalone experience, which Janthir, because of its connection to Secrets, subverted immediately. As a player who completed Secrets, I was unaffected, but my reviewer kind of compassionate brain did point vigorously to the plight of new players who would be completely lost, completely at sea, even in the prologue. But despite that, I was enchanted by the cozy nature of the wilds and its hench inhabitants. The PvE introduction of the Warclaw 2 was done with thoughtful consideration of the world. It seemed the team were taking the time to marry gameplay and narrative, which made my nerdy little heart sing. By the time I'd unlocked my homestead, much of my worry had evaporated. I can imagine some players would be lukewarm on the slow pace of the story, but I was happy to see time given to new characters and old. A lot of my complaints in the past have been how quickly the team runs through their stories. And honestly, the homestead alone, at least for the builders in the community and the role players, wow, that's transformative, emergent content for them right there. The team has built features in Janthir that will span the lifetime of the game going forward. No mean feat in a franchise of this age. The devs, honestly, they're some of the most innovative in the MMO space. They have reshaped the Momorpaga landscape more than once. And if my review was solely related to the Lowland Codon and the content we got around them, it would be fairly glowing. But as I ventured further into the expansion, the nature and consequences of a punishing annual expansion cadence began to manifest. The story became sparser, the open world gameplay, so diverse in the first map, dwindled as the scope of the expansion widened. That is not to say the content was bad. It was just not as polished, not as focused, not as married to the world and its narrative, even a little frayed at the edges as it was. The opening story was solid, and Janthir had given us a meaningful slice of lowland life with a side order of titans, and I was very happy with what we got. Then the team reached for more than it could deliver. The legacy of the Masat, in my opinion, deserves more than a footnote at the end of an already diminutive expansion. The inclusion of Maban 2, the fate of which only Soto players could have any care to know, seems to stand against the stated ethos of these self-contained annual expansions. The outskirts of the city of Bavanissos, found in the Mistburnt Barrens, could have been any abandoned, ruined human civilization. The alien, crystalline, otherworldly architecture of the original Masat culture seemed to be set aside in favour of this style template more akin to the White Mantle. The city proper was a confused, disconnected mess of a map. These prologue maps, in my estimation, are repetitive, unengaging, and narratively threadbare. At the start of the expansion, I felt connected to the world part of it, but as I headed into the Mistburnt Barrens, the map events are just running on a loop. No triggering events, no event chains, minimal player input required most of the time. And it's the little things, the missing little things that struck me. We have an ocean journey to get to the Mistburnt Barrens. Where is the dock? Why can't we visit that? Why is the camp set up? Why didn't we help establish it? And the research? Why did the mastery we get in this area bear no resemblance to the dark portals? Dark portals versus wispy light which transports you to a bubble where you can unlock a bit of loot. And why are 3 main characters, those who would become the Titans, why are they not a bigger part of the prologue story? Why don't we get to play or interact with these characters in some capacity, perhaps Scryerpool-esque style gameplay, as their ill-fated journey reaches its conclusion? Even a few cutscenes would have given players, the vast majority of who do not read all the scattered text about the map, give them an understanding of how and why the Titans were created. It felt so threadbare, so disconnected. Why was the story so obfuscated? So hidden, so buried in a hidden object. Taking part in the meta event helped not one solitary jot. I was left feeling lost and confused. We even succeeded to complete the meta event, and I didn't think that we had. I felt like we hadn't. It was very strange. There's no kind of cutscene to indicate that you've ended the Titan or stilled its heart. And there's no community gather point with, like our little grouping of chests where we can run around and collect our loot to get together and just celebrate the fact that we have had this meta victory. There's just a pop-up on the screen. These last 3 installments of Janthir have felt like an afterthought. And I didn't think that they could stumble so hard as they did in Naos. I didn't think that was possible. So here's the sad reality, the unfortunate, inconvenient truth of the matter. I like Janthir Wilds. It is a fun romp of an expansion with Henchcoden and beautiful lowlands and some dark history being revealed. It's great. There are many lovely, sweet, heartfelt moments. There are many noteworthy characters, but I fear it will not be remembered as such. I fear the devs have kneecapped another solid release with a weak ending. Let me know your thoughts and experiences of Janthir Wilds below. Agree? Disagree? Anything in between? And many thanks to ArenaNet, who I love and respect. I'm part of their partner program. They supply me with codes so that they can help support my channel as I make content related to their game. They don't have, as you can see, any editorial control, but they are very sweet, they're very kind. They know that I have a huge amount of love and respect for the dev team, despite my critiques sometimes, and I know that they can make fantastic content, and I think they keep blowing it up at the end and going off-piste and They're biting off more than they can chew. Any more analogies that I can think of? I don't think so. And many thanks to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon and Subscribestar who help keep the lights on here every month. They help contribute, they pay for my Adobe suite. It's fantastic. I couldn't do it without them. They're amazing. If you would like to join them, links below, but my content delivery is very, very low at the moment. I'm still very sick. But we're getting some out today. Hey, and I'm very happy to. But sadly, we have come to the very end. So until we meet again, please do stay safe, stay awesome, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.